Alright, hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I will be giving you my reactions and a full card breakdown, yes that's right, a full card breakdown of the Canelo Alvarez versus Terence Crawford card that went down Saturday, September 13th. This is TKO's big jump into the boxing scene, so we'll see how this really plays out for them as a whole, how they do against some of the other boxing promotions, and how the boxing world actually reacts to this. But they have a very good start in making this super fight between two undisputed champions of their division. So let's get into this right here. I'm going to quickly go through the prelims card. Not a lot to say about some of these, but there are still some things worth noting. And there are some there were some intriguing fights on paper on this prelims card. So I'll go through these real quick here. Starting with Marco Verde versus Sona Akeli. Verde is a 2024 Olympic silver medalist, and Akeli is a replacement here with a 9-3 record. Verde looked pretty good keeping the pressure up. He was landing shots while being pretty patient, and he was mixing in the body shots and uppercuts, which looked pretty good. But then in the fourth round, the ref had decided that he had seen enough out of kind of fucking nowhere here and stopped the fight. I think this is a pretty early stoppage if you ask me, man. I think, like, when you see it, Akeli is he's being pieced up, right? He was being pieced up for this entire fight, and he wasn't really having good responses to anything that Verde was throwing at him. He was just kind of missing wildly with some of his punches while Verde was landing some really good combinations. But then at the very end of one of these combinations, not against the ropes or nothing, the referee just comes in and stops the fight, calls it off. And Akeli is very visibly upset about this. And one thing that also annoyed me about it too was that commentary was very much on the side of like, oh, you know, that was a good stoppage. He you know, obviously he had seen enough. He wasn't doing anything to him. He was fucking you know, he wasn't answering, and of course he saved the fighter from himself basically. But Akeli was still pretty intelligently defending himself, I thought. I like, of course, yeah, he was missing punches, but he was backing up. He was being smart. He did have his hands up. So I wonder what that was about. I don't think I agree with commentary's decision that was a good stoppage. I think the fight could have gone on a bit more. Next fight was Steven Nelson versus Rico Santana. Nelson is 20-1 coming off a loss for an international title. Santana is 12-4, only losing to pretty good fighters here. So a decent matchup here. I'm kind of surprised it's taking place this early on the card. Santana pushes forward the first round. He gets Nelson's against the ropes and then hits him with a very heavy barrage of punches here, which Nelson doesn't try to counter or doesn't even try to get away from. He just kind of stands here and eats these punches. And so by the end, the referee does come in and stops the fight, calls it off. TKO win for Santana here. And then commentary, right? After seeing the last fight, keep in mind, Akil wasn't up against the ropes. He was trying to throw punches himself, and the ref stopped in, and they call that a good stoppage. Nelson was up against the ropes. His hands were up. He wasn't moving at all. He found an opening to go to the left a little bit, but he wasn't throwing anything back. He wasn't trying to get away from him. He was just up against the ropes, and the ref called it off there as a TKO win, and the commentary actually thought that was a bad stoppage. I was like, are you serious? You just saw that last stoppage and you thought that one was good, but this one isn't? He was putting on way more pressure than Verde was. And you think this isn't a good stoppage? So for the rest of this card, I legitimately just muted commentary. I watched the rest of this prelim card without commentary because I didn't think there was anything insightful they were actually giving me to this card. I had some very big problems with commentary on the prelims here, man. That was just dumb. I thought it was just dumb what they were talking about here. And I completely disagree with both of their reactions to both stoppages here. I think the first one was very early, and I think this one's actually a pretty decent one compared to the last one. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm just not a boxing aficionado, if that makes sense. If that matters, even, you know. You see how many people were in the fucking arena for these fights, dude? Like, it didn't even look like it was just empty. It looked like the building wasn't even opened. It looked like there were still people trying to build the set, walking around and shit, dude. Nobody was sitting down. There were people, but nobody was sitting down to watch these fights. It was crazy. Up next is a fight that I really should have started the entire card. We have Sultan Al Muhammad versus Martin Caraballo. Al Muhammad is a debuting fighter, while Caraballo poses a record of 0-0-1. So, okay, third fight on the card here. Al Muhammad kept the pressure up with the jab. Caraballo was doing some pretty decent counter punches throughout the fight. It was pretty even when they were both standing in front of each other, not really letting each other back each other up. But in the later rounds, both guys found success pushing forward. They were trading pressure, control quite a bit here, but it was Al Muhammad that was able to land the bigger shots here, which was able to get him the win overall. You know, a pretty decent showing for a debut fighter. It looked pretty good for him, so good for him. Good win for Sultan Al Muhammad, and you know, hopefully he can just keep moving on. Up next is Reto Susumi versus Javier Martinez. Susumi is 2-0, while Martinez is 7-2, coming off 2 losses to some pretty decent opponents, in my opinion. But the fight was over very quickly. It was a first-round TKO win for Susumi, who looked pretty sharp. He overpowered Martinez pretty easily, and then was able to get the first-round TKO win. So a good performance here from Susumi. Hopefully he's going to go on to do better things. Up next is a fight. This is when the fights actually started to get a bit more interesting, in my opinion, because up next we have Ivan Daichko versus Jermaine Franklin. Daichko is a 2-time Olympic bronze medalist with a 14-0 record in the heavyweight division, while Jermaine Franklin is a very true heavyweight gatekeeper, only losing fights to Dillian White and Anthony Joshua, so a win here for Daichko would be a very big statement. Unfortunately, though, this fight was pretty slow. There was a lot of clinching going on here. Daichko didn't do much but stick out his arm, trying to keep Franklin away, while Franklin tries to get around it and throw strikes, and then also get in the clinch. I'll be honest, I started to kind of just zone out by the end. Like, this fight was very, very boring. Not a lot of action in this one. But it was Franklin that got the win by unanimous decision in the end, so he keeps his reign as the gatekeeper. Daichko still could not get the win here. So a good win for Franklin here. The last fight on the prelim card was Sergey Bohachuk versus Brandon Adams. Bohachuk is 25-2, winning continental and interim titles, while Adams is 25-4 and is a former world champion challenger. Throughout this entire fight, it was just Adams keeping pressure up, keeping him at jab, keeping him good control, looking good, throwing some good punches. But Bohachuk looked pretty good up close, throwing the uppercuts, but then Adams was always able to push him back and keep regaining control of the fight. So that's what ended up giving him the unanimous decision win. Good look for Adams here. Good win for him. Able to, showcase that he's still a worthy challenger in the division that he's in. I can't remember. I didn't write it down. I'm sorry. My notes were fucking dog shit by the time I was watching this, bro. Like, this was something else, man. We move on to the main card. Mohamed Alakel versus Travis Kent Crawford. Not related to Terence Crawford. Totally different guy. Alakel is the next big Saudi Arabian prospect. He's got really good connections. He was actually on the last card that I talked about, the Moses Utama versus Dillian White card. He was the opener for that fight. So here he is again, fighting Travis Kent Crawford. A decent step up in competition for him compared to the last one. So we'll see how he does here. It was a clean start for Akale. Crawford really couldn't string much together as Akale circles and counters him, and he started racking up the points. By round 6, Crawford started letting his hands go, trying to push through Alakale's guard, but Alakale was content to circle away with the lead here. Crawford then had a good effort to close the fight, but it wasn't enough. Alakale wins by unanimous decision. It was a fine showing for both guys here. Alakale, he's not really picking up a lot of TKO wins or KO wins in and of itself, so I don't see a huge I don't really see him going too far in his career, but hopefully hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully he's able to at least win like a national title or something. I think he does have the capabilities to do that at least. So good, but he's still 6-0. Like he's up and coming. He's very young, so we'll see how his career turns out. Because obviously we're gonna get to see a fucking lot of it here if he's on cards like this. So we'll see. Up next, it was Christian Mbili versus Lester Martinez. Mbili is defending his WBC super middleweight championship. He's won 9 continental title fights as well as winning youth and national titles, and he's also 29-0. Martinez here is 19-0 and has some national titles under his belt. It was an exciting first round. Martinez is trying to hardest to match Mbili punch for punch, but Mbili finds ways to keep him on the ropes. Martinez starts to be able to shake off his punches and finishes his round strongly as the fight progresses. But Mbili was still pushing the pace. Overall, it was a very, very even. By the end, it came down to a power punching battle, and that's how they ended the fight and went to the decision. Personally, I had Mbili winning the fight, but the official result was a split draw. I'm not too mad at it. This was one of those fights that would look like a split draw, so not a lot of complaints here. Both guys look pretty good. I don't think Mbili, if you were to put him against someone like Canelo Alvarez, I don't think he's gonna take over the division or anything. So, but he still looked good here. This was a good look for him. Both guys get to keep their their undefeated streaks going, which may be why some guys try to give it a draw, so both guys could keep their undefeated streaks going. But I'm not gonna speculate on that too heavily. I'm gonna just congratulate both guys for putting on a good performance here. This was a very exciting fight. This was probably easily the best fight on the main card. Very, very exciting stuff here. So good for these guys here. Up next, Callum Walsh versus Fernando Vargas Jr. I don't know why this was the co-main under title fight. I think that was a bit confusing, honestly. And I don't think Callum Walsh, as good as he is and as promising as he looked here, I don't think he's really the caliber of like a co-main event status, like one of these kind of huge cards. And he kind of demonstrated here in his performance. But first, I'll talk about how Callum Walsh is 14-0. He's won silver and continental titles. Vargas is 17-0, and this is the biggest fight in his career, as well as in being Walsh's career. He hasn't really fought an opponent like Vargas Jr. before. It was a pretty inactive first round at the start, but Walsh did start decently here. He was just doing enough to win the first few rounds, and by round 6, he started finishing rounds well, but still not by a lot. Vargas tried to keep looking for openings to counter, but Walsh really gave him nothing. By the end here, round 9 was pretty dull, and they finished kind of strong in the last round, but the fight wasn't much other than just a glorified spar session. It really wasn't a super impressive performance for either guy here. And then Walsh just kind of wins by a UD, and you just kind of like, oh, okay, cool. You didn't really look good at all, man. It looked like you did the bare minimum to win most of these rounds, so I don't really have much to say about that. I don't think... I don't know where he goes from here, honestly. I guess obviously it's a win, so he's going to continue climbing, but it wasn't a performance to really get me excited to see more of Callum Walsh, I'll be honest, so we'll see how it goes from here. Finally, the main event, Canelo Alvarez versus Terence Crawford. Canelo is 63-2-2. He is 24-2-1 in world title fights. He is 8-2-1 in BoxRec 5-star fights. He is a 2-time and inaugural undisputed super middleweight champion, and he is being challenged by Terence Crawford, 41-0, 19-0 in world title fights, 3-0 in BoxRec 5-star fights, and is the undisputed champion in 2 different weight divisions, including to be in the super lightweight division, which is crazy. This fight was interesting. This fight was interesting for sure. Something that really ended up helping Crawford was his reach advantage. He had a 5-inch reach advantage over someone like Canelo, which is not something you typically see when a challenger is moving up to take on a champion of a heavier weight division. How that ended up helping was that Crawford was able to use the jab really, really effectively. He was able to keep Canelo at bay, and then Canelo really couldn't find anything to throw at Crawford. Canelo wasn't really throwing a jab at all. He was kind of chasing Crawford around looking for body shots, but the head strike started wearing down Canelo by round 4, I'd say. It was a bit more visible, and just watching it visually, you could tell that Crawford was landing these stronger, faster punches, the cleaner punches. So Crawford was just cleaner with his punches. He was getting the better of the exchange, and that kind of continued on all throughout the fight until we got to the end of the 12th round, where it was announced that Crawford gets the decision win over Canelo. Wow, man! What can I say? Crawford looked really, really, really good here. He was very impressive here, and I think it's kind of weird for a guy that is coming up in the weight division, right? To still look like he has a size advantage over most guys. Dude, he has this longer reach advantage than some guys at light heavyweight. So I don't know how a lot of people are going to be able to get through to Crawford here. For Canelo, it was a good loss. He still looked really strong. He ate a lot of punches here. I think he looked good still. He didn't have the moments that he usually does when he fights people. So he didn't have the Canelo-ness of him, So I'm sad to see that. The he's fought a lot of fights. This is his hold on, let me do the math. His 68th fight, professional fight. That is impressive for someone of his age, because he's only 35 here, right? And I think that's what's gonna. And again, Crawford himself is 37 actually, so I think that's that'll be a helping for the next challengers to try to get through to Crawford. Maybe they'll just have a huge age advantage try to get to him. But in terms of turn back onto Canelo, I don't know really what this means for him. I think he's gonna. Oh, I saw someone say he might fight Jake Paul now, and that. It's looking like a possibility, dude. It really is looking like a possibility now. I don't really want that to happen. I don't really care for that happening. I hope he just continues fighting. Maybe he goes back down. I don't know. I think we'll have to see. I think what'll happen is that Crawford actually will end up vacating some of the titles, and I think Canelo will be able to come, like, you know, pick himself back up and fight for another title again. So I think they're just gonna share like title lineages at super middleweight. So I don't think that'll be a big problem for Canelo, unless of course he does actually want to fight Jake Paul first, which will probably end up happening because I don't see Crawford holding these undisputed titles for long here. But that's all I've got to say about this card here. I will say, actually, before I go, 5 fucking hours for a 4-fight card is some bullshit, dude. That is some bullshit. This card wrapped up at, what was it? It was like 2 a.m. Eastern time, dude. What the fuck, guys? Are you serious? Are you serious? God almighty. It's just like, it's so unnecessary though. There's so much pageantry to it, but it's just so unnecessary, dude, you know? You had the longest intros of the world for this Canelo Crawford fight, man. They just did so much introducing these guys and walking out these guys here. And the whole fight, the whole card itself was just poorly paced. It was a drag to get through, and there really wasn't that much excitement in the fights themselves, you know. So I kind of have to call this card a pretty. It was a pretty mid card. I'll be honest here. It was pretty mid. It was historic for a lot of reasons, you know. Obviously Crawford beating Canelo here is a really big deal, but yeah, man, I thought this card was pretty mid, honestly. I don't think there was much to go back on. Hopefully, TKO can rebound here pretty well with an exciting card instead of just, you know, a big one that'll draw in a lot of money. Because this did actually pull in numbers. This is like the 3rd most viewed boxing event ever, so good for them, you know. When you have a platform like Netflix to help you out, that really helps. So, yeah, that's going to do it for me. Still more boxing and combat sports to talk about in the future, so subscribe to those. Let me know your thoughts on this card in the comment section down below. If you had any predictions for it, how did they end up going for you? I really didn't know who was actually going to win this fight going into it. I think kind of just had to back Canelo because it felt wrong to not, you know? But, like, I understand people going for Crawford, you know. 41-0, that's nothing to fucking, like, sneeze at, right? So, good for him. But yeah, that's going to do it for me, man. I will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.